Question 3 is a limiting reactant question. So we're trying to figure out if we have 10 grams of iron and 10 grams of chlorine, what's the total amount of iron chloride that can be made? But before we can get into any calculations, we should make sure that the equation is balanced. And as we can see, there's 2 chlorines on the left, 3 on the right. That tells us the equation here is not balanced. So if we go through the process of balancing, we're going to, in order to balance the chlorines, we need 3 chlorines on the left, 2 iron chloride on the right, and therefore we're going to need 2 iron to balance that. As we've gone over in class, there are a number of ways that we can approach a problem like this. The one that I'm going to use here is to calculate the amount of product that can be formed in both cases. So if we start from the 10 grams of iron, remember, any problem like this, we're going to go from grams to moles, moles of starting material to moles of product, and then moles of product back to grams of product. So starting with our 10 grams of iron, we need to convert that to moles. We can get its mass from the periodic table, 55.85 grams. Then we know that from the balanced equation, 2 moles of the product, iron chloride, can be made from 2 moles of iron. And then we need to convert moles of iron chloride back to grams. And we get the mass there from the mass of iron, 55.85 grams, plus 3 times the mass of chloride, 34.5 grams. And we get a molar mass here of 162.2 grams. Now if we calculate this out, we're going to keep 4 significant figures because that's where our starting number was. We get a total of 29.04 grams of iron chloride. So now we're going to do the same thing for starting from the 10 grams of chlorine. The main thing that's going to be different is, of course, we're going to start with the molar mass of chlorine instead of iron. 70.91 grams of chlorine. Again, we can make 2 moles of iron chloride, but that requires 3 moles of chlorine. Our last factor over here is going to be the same as it was in the first calculation, because at this point, again, we're going from moles of iron chloride back to grams. We can calculate this out to 4 significant figures. We get an answer of 15.25 grams of iron chloride. And now we're finally ready to answer the question, how much iron chloride can be made if we have 10 grams of iron and 10 grams of chlorine? It's always going to be the smaller amount. So we can make a total of 15.25 grams of iron chloride, and while the question doesn't ask, that does tell us that the chlorine here is in fact our limiting reactant.